Hello, it's only little old me again, welcoming you to today's United Kingdom talk. Chris Reardon with you for the next hour. And I can hear people at the moment saying, how could you do that to us in your last show? For the last 5 or 6 shows, I've been talking to you about my recent visit to my sisters, and all of a sudden, on the last show, the very last part of the story, I told you that we were unable to continue with the story due to the volume of emails that must be read out. Funnily enough, can I just turning on my air conditioning. While I was at work the other Saturday night, a place I work at in another place I work at in King's Cross. Of course, if you're a regular watcher to the show, you will now know I'm afraid that the Golden Lion has now closed. I know, believe me, I am disappointed, not because of the money. It's not the money that drives me, but because of the fun times that I've had there in the last year and a half, and the lovely people I've met, which I hope to meet again, because we now have another venue confirmed in the King's Cross area to host Bingay. I'm pleased to say, in September, from the second week in September, more as we get closer to that. But Bingay will be returning with karaoke, a Bingay and karaoke night from September at another venue in King's Cross. All confirmed. Second week in September. More when it gets closer. All right? How did we get onto that subject? How on earth did we get onto that? Oh, I swear I lose the plot, don't I? I start talking about one thing and then we go on about something. Oh, that's right. Yes, a regular viewer to the show, Tommy, who lives in North London. Hello, Tommy. Was in the other place in King's Cross on Saturday night while I was doing my disco dancing, my disco DJing. Well, I call it disco. It's very old-fashioned now, that word, isn't it? Disco. Have we got any youngsters called? What do you now call a nightclub? Do you just call it a club? I suppose. We used to call it a disco. A discotheque. A discotheque in the 70s, which was shortened to disco in the 80s. My niece, years ago, probably about 5 or 6, maybe 7 years ago, she used to call a disco a hive. Has anyone heard of that expression? A hive. Yes. I hadn't heard of that. What do you call a disco now? I still call it a club or a disco. What do you call a disco now? Anyway, Tommy was down there and he says, how could you do it, Chris? I said, what? He said, in one of your shows, a couple of shows ago, I said, are you up to date? And he said, no, not quite. I said, it's probably the problem. Before you even ask the question, that might be what the problem is. Because you've got to keep up to date with these programmes. There's no point in missing one, dear. You don't know what you're going to miss. How do you know? Okay, say you're watching this now and you usually watch every show. How do you know 2 shows ago I didn't give away a car or a holiday for someone? It could happen. Unlikely, but you never know, it could. If I won the National Lottery, £5 million, and I have a feeling I'd give away, a £50 prize. I see, that's me. I'm all give. Give. That's me. Anyway, Tommy said to me in the club, how could you do it? Oh, excuse me, I've got hiccups. How could you do that? Well, you were talking about what you were about to have for dinner while he was at your sister's house, and then suddenly said, but that's all we've got time for this time, and now it's on to the emails, because I like to keep you hooked, Tommy. Yes, doing that ensures that you will listen to the next show. How clever am I? That's how they do it. They used to do Doctor Who like that, didn't they? They would finish with the old Doctor Who. If you're a relatively new viewer to Doctor Who, for example, when we've got the current actor, his name's gone. Isn't that funny? I can see his face, but not his name. Christopher Eccleston was the one before, and now we've got... Oh, God! What on earth is his name? Peter, is it Peter? Oh, my word. Hang on a minute. I've got to look that up. I'm losing my mind today. What's going on there? It's setting in. Alzheimer's is setting in, I told you. What's his name now? Scottish man, isn't he? Let me just quickly look that up on the computer. It's right in front of me. You can't see it, can you, the computer? No. Doctor Who. Hang on a minute. Doctor Who. Peter Tennant. That's it. Peter Tennant. Oh, how stupid. It is Peter, isn't it? Hang on. Is it Peter? I hope it's Peter. I'm not going to make myself look really stupid, am I? Peter Tennant? Oh. Or is it David? I told you I'm no good. David Tennant. I'm sorry. God almighty, how can I forget that? I can't believe I forgot that. Anyway, as I was saying, if you are a relatively new viewer that knows either David Tennant or Christopher Eccleston as Doctor Who's, then you won't know, but years ago when Doctor Who was on with all the other actors, William Hartnell, Peter Davidson, John Pertwee, all those other ones, they used to run it as like a series, like one story would be in 6 parts, and at the end they would always have a bit of a cliffhanger, and then you'd watch it, you know, then that would ensure that you probably watch the next one. Well, that's what I try and do with these shows, Tommy. I try and hook you in. I hook you in like a fish. Oh my God! There's a hook around. How? Yeah, can you see what hard lives fish have, Tommy? I feel sorry for fish. Number one, it's the smell. I mean, it's not the pleasantest thing you'd ever heard, is it? Can you imagine a room full of fish? Not nice, love. What? A bowl full of fish, then. A bowl full of fish. And they do have a hard life because those fish hooks, dear, try it now. I want you to try it now at home, boys and girls. Okay? Take your hand and make it your own. Sounds like a hymn, doesn't it? Like a Catholic hymn, that does. Take your hand, okay? Get the finger. I'm never quite sure what... Is it the index? I don't know. I'm never quite sure what fingers have got what names. Well, I know there's Peter Piper picked... No, what finger has got what name? It's the finger next to your thumb, whatever finger that is called. I don't know what it's called, dear. You don't give your names, your fingers names, do you, as well? Do you really? Anyway, the finger next to your thumb, move it so it is now like a hook, okay? I'm going to show you what it's like for a fish. I get fed up with all these people saying, oh, fish hasn't got feelings. How do you know? You don't know that. Are you a fish? No. And make funny noises, don't they? Goldfish in the bowls. Have you heard it? As their little mouths open for food, don't they? They come to the top of the bowl and make noise like with their mouths as they wait for that dried fish food to go into them. I wonder what goldfish eat, actually, in rivers. You know, where do goldfish come from? Do they come from other countries? I don't know a lot about fish, I'm afraid. I was what? No, I know nothing about fish. Anyway, take your finger, the one that's next to your thumb, and make it into a hook, and then shove it in your mouth, like that. And now, pull it to one side. Whoa! 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 That must be what it's like for a fish when it gets caught. Try again. Take a finger, make it into a hook, shove it in your mouth, and pull to the right. Whoa! Whoa! Oh, poor old Joy's probably doing this at the moment. I was probably pulled so hard her false teeth have just dropped out. Is that right, Joy? Now you know. So if we've got anyone who does fishing, I know that PK Puree and his mate Joe go fishing. Now you know what it's like for a fish when it gets caught. It's not nice, dear. They get hooked. And then they get reeled out. Reeled out of the water. So there we are, Tommy. That's why. That's not really the reason, but it's a good enough reason, isn't it, to split the story into parts so that it keeps you hooked. Now, once again on the show today, we do have a lot of emails to get through. I'm hoping within the next 2 shows to clear our backlog of emails. Fingers crossed. Don't know whether I will or not, because we have got some reasonably old ones now that have gone back a few weeks, and I just haven't been able to keep up with them. So please bear with me, my darlings. Meanwhile, the final episode on my recent visit to my sisters. Now, you remember, I left you in the last show. I told you that I'd tried to clean my windows. And I'd gone up to play with my nephew's computer games. Jimmy, 11 years old, he's got computer games. Went up to the room to play with computer games, and he designed me my own sim character, which is his little computer game. And you have to design a character for yourself. He designed me with green eyes, spiky hair, big lips, and quite short. So that was it. I told you I met a man who's considering having solar panels and shared with him my experience. And now we had roast dinner at 1 o'clock. I told you that, didn't I? She put quite a lot of meat on the plate. I'm not a huge meat eater. I told you that. So where are we going now? And then it was time for a little outing. My dear, dear sister had decided to take me and my little nephew for a little outing to one of her favourite places in the whole world, Skegness. Now, Skegness is a seaside resort in the north of England, and it is hugely, hugely popular. Lots of people go. Coach trips from all over the place, hugely popular. So, just showing, as I say, and my sister Jimmy, very nice journey there, through some really nice countryside, I have to say. Really nice journey there. Then we got into town, and I've got to say, I've seen caravan parks before. But just as we got into Skegness, I have never seen so many caravans in all my life. There were hundreds of these things. And the thing is with caravan, if I wanted to buy a holiday home, I would prefer it kind of with a bit of space around it. Do you know what I mean? But let me just turn me out. I'm getting a bit cold now. There we are. I would like it with a bit of space around it. But these caravans, they can't have been any more than 3 or 4 foot in between each caravan. And they were like in these fields. And there were hundreds of these things. And I can't think of anything worse than to spend a week there. I mean, obviously a popular thing to do. Otherwise there wouldn't be so many of them. But really not my cup of tea. So far too many caravans there. There were, as we got into Skegness itself, with the main part of it, I found it extremely commercialised. There were ice cream shops next to ice cream shops next to ice cream shops. I've never seen so many chip shops in all my life. There really were hundreds and hundreds of... I mean, basically, the place just consists of ice cream shops, chip shops, ice cream shop cum chip shops, selling them both with cakes and things, and amusement arcades. I've got to say, that was basically it. They were all the shops, but there were so many of them. We were not just talking about a little street with a few shops down there. There were so many, you could not... I didn't see a tree. I did not see a tree at all. And we had to go through this... like fun fair. Oh, there was a marketplace as well, and we had to go through this fun fair as well. And I don't know. Am I being miserable? Is it that I don't know why? I do not like fun fairs that much. Not really appeal to me. Maybe I'm too old for that sort of thing now. My little nephew Jimmy, his eyes lit up. They lit up. Bing! Like Belisha beacons. Similar to that little trip we had in London, as I told you on one of the last shows. When we went to see the London... what was it called? The London Bridge... Oh, I can't even remember. I've got the receipts here. Was it the London... No, that's not it. Receipt for that. I've got to do my receipts. I've got bits of paper all over the place here. I need to catch up with my... paperwork, which has fallen behind recently. Hang on a minute, where's that other receipt? The London Bridge, was it? Something London Bridge. Here we are, the London... As I told you about, I think it was on the last show or the show before, we went to see the London Bridge Experience in Tooley Street in London. Now, if you ever come to London for a holiday, I do not recommend it. I honestly, it was boring as hell. But the little one did seem to enjoy it. If you're, I would say, if you're over the age of, well, let's think. Children aren't stupid, are they, anymore? I think they're a lot more clued up than we were as children. If you've got anyone over the age of 13, I wouldn't bother. The London Bridge experience, one of the most boring, overpriced attractions in London I have ever come across. Okay? Don't bother going to that. Similarly, Skegness for me was far too built up. No, I don't think it is an age thing, because there was plenty of older people in there, teenagers, you know, the sort, hanging around the machines, probably got their hands. These teenagers, some of these lads, they got their hands underneath the machines waiting for you to win money, dear, and it will be stolen from you. Huh? Well, that's it. So, ice cream shops, the chip shops, I've told you all that. We also saw, and I was quite excited by that, it's all very sad, really, what excites me now. I also saw in the sea wind turbines. How exciting was that? There were quite a few of them. We're not talking hundreds. I would say about 40 or 50, I think. Just off the coast of Skegness, some great big wind turbines, some of which were not turning. Not quite sure why that was. Some were turning and some weren't. They are actually being built at the moment, so we'll assume that the rest of them, the ones that weren't turning, hadn't been finished. But I think they're lovely things, wind turbines. I do. I mean, some people say they're ugly as sin. I don't think they're as ugly at all. They're beautiful things. I'd happily have one of those in the garden, turning around, providing my electricity for my little shows. So I saw that. Let me see. Oh, there were donkeys. There were the most lovely donkeys you have ever seen in your entire life. Little groups of them. What do you call a group of donkeys? Are they a pack of donkeys? Or a gaggle of donkeys? I don't know what they're called. I think a pack of donkeys. There were donkeys, little groups of donkeys, and you could get, well, I mean, I couldn't. And certainly my sister couldn't, dear. God almighty. I mean, I feel sorry for the life of a donkey if she ever got on one. But there was an age limit, and these donkeys were being led around. They looked well cared for. You know, sometimes you can look at someone's pet, perhaps, or something like that, and you're thinking, oh, you know, that pet isn't well cared for. Have you ever been round perhaps someone's house or out somewhere, and someone's got a dog with them, and every time that person sort of moves towards the dog kind of cowers down, and you just know that pet is not cared for. We always get these dreadful stories, don't we, in some of the newspapers or indeed on television about pets that have been badly treated. And I just think that is one of the most awful things, that. Because you buy a pet. I don't mean you, but people. People buy a pet. And from that moment, a bond attaches to that pet, doesn't it? Now, I'm not saying you have to be on top of that cat or dog 24 hours a day. Indeed, my two cats, they come into the kitchen, but they're not allowed in the rest of the house because it gives me a bit of an asthma problem. Okay? One of my cats, as you know, lives in the shed. It's very comfortable. She's got her own posh pussy bed, which I showed you on a couple of shows ago. Tommy in London was very impressed with the posh pussy bed, weren't you, Tommy? Have you got pets, Tommy? Tommy! I like your name, Tommy. He's from Ireland, isn't he? Tommy from Ireland. So she's got a bed, and that's fine. So really, there's not an awful lot of contact between me and the two cats. Yes, every day, my hand goes down, gives them a stroke 3 or 4 times a day. I put the food down and all this, but I'm not on top of them 24 hours a day. But I tell you what, when I turn around suddenly, they don't run. They don't need to. They don't get hit. And you just know. You just know sometimes, I think, when you go around and see people with dogs and cats and things like that. And it's always very sad, I think, when they cow down, when the owner sometimes turns around suddenly. There's no excuse for that at all. Anyway, these donkeys, I had to say, although they looked well cared for, they were well groomed, lovely soft ears, but they looked sad. They did look sad. Maybe all donkeys look sad, do they? I mean, is that just the way it looks? But horses, I've seen horses before. They don't look sad, do they? Or maybe I've just seen happy horses. Reminds me of that song. Monday, Tuesday, happy days. Wednesday, Thursday, happy days. Friday, Saturday, happy days. Weekends come, da-da-da. Ready to da-da-da, ba-ba-ba-ba. These days are ours. I tell you what, my American friends, those of you of perhaps years more advanced than myself, those of you who were teenagers in America in the 50s and early 60s, I'm jealous. When I see certain TV programmes, like Happy Days, when I see places like Ed's Diner and how America was in the 50s, I'm jealous. I would like to have lived that life, I think. America in the 50s, your schools and the film Grease, of course, all that business. I love the dress and just everything, the fast cars. Of course, we didn't have to worry about oil and that sort of thing then, did we? Well, I wouldn't know. I wasn't born then even. I am jealous of any Americans that were teenagers in the 50s. The proper dancing and what is that? The twisting and, let's twist again and all that business. What was that other dance? You know that hound dog? What's the one where they... Hand jive? Is it hand jive? Born to Hand Jive. Yeah, by Shanana, isn't it? That was in the film Grease. One of my favourite ever tracks, that one. And they do all the actions, don't they, with the hands. Love it. Would love to have been an American teenager in the 50s. You can't turn the thing back. But do donkeys look sad to you? Do you ever see a happy donkey? Is it because all they're doing all day long is walking around carrying people on the beach, dear? What sort of life is that? Huh? You answer me that question. What sort of life is it to be carrying around young children on the beach? Mind you, the children were really enjoying it. They loved it. And it was funny, actually, when the guy who was looking after the donkeys... When he started, I don't think he had a rope or anything around their necks. When he started walking, one donkey would follow him, followed by the rest of them, and they would all just automatically follow this bloke. How funny is that? And my sister said she did see the bloke later on, and he was walking with all the donkeys along the road, obviously to the shed or wherever it was they lived, the donkey house. Maybe he lived with the donkeys. Who knows, dear? But yes, very, very nice that, seeing the little donkeys going everywhere. Then we went and we had something to eat. I didn't have chips. Surprise, surprise. It surprised me as well. I had a jacket potato with chilli. And my sister had a jacket potato with cheese. And Jimmy I think he had chips with something. And, bless me Suko, for I have sinned, a Belgian waffle with ice cream. Oh, and I think strawberry sauce stuff. I don't suppose there's any... Is there actually any strawberries in strawberry sauce? Or is it all chemicals? I bet this stuff has never even seen a strawberry. But absolutely delicious. Maybe, Suko, I can be forgiven for that one, as I was on holiday. Huh? What do you reckon? Hey? So there we are. Jimmy and I then went on pedalo boats. Ever been on a pedalo? Marvellous. And you kind of... push these pedals and the boat moves along. He was so excited to go on this thing. I have a feeling I was doing most of the work. In the end, I put my feet up and said, right, you pedal now. And he was kind of steering this boat round. You can see a picture of this on the main United Kingdom Talk website, okay? unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Just have a look for the show. Dated the 7th of August. And you'll see a picture of myself and I think you'll only see Jimmy on there. you'll see Jimmy on the pedalo. I think it's Jimmy on his own. I can't. Hang on, let me have a quick look. Oh no, I can't. I think it's Jimmy. It's either me and Jimmy or Jimmy on his own on there. On the pedalo. Look up for the... go to unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. The show dated the 7th of August for that, okay? unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Incidentally, that's the same place. If you want to hear any of the other shows, maybe you might pop away on holiday and you're concerned you might have missed something. I'm concerned you might have missed something, believe me. Then just go to unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. So then it started raining. Fortunately, just as we got off the little pedalo, it started raining. So back to the car and back to my sister's place. I had a quick sleep, and then at 10:30 p.m. Sunday night, it was time to me to drive home. And off I drove home, and I got home just before 2 o'clock. It's funny, actually, the sat-nav... I've got a sat-nav in the car. I've had it quite a few years now. But it was very expensive when I bought it. It was actually, what was it, 700, it was just a touch under £700 when I bought it, which is astronomical. You can now get them. I saw one advertised yesterday in the newspaper for £79, but they were new out then. And my sense of direction is hideous. It's really bad. So I don't actually regret spending any of that money on the sat-nav all those years ago. And, of course, here I've still got it and it's working perfectly. But often it tells me on the way home to take the M11, where I know if I take the A1M, which is two roads coming from north to south or back the other way, which are from London northwards, really, from London northwards or from the north down to London, both those routes you can use. And the A1, if I take the A1M, which is, I know that, then it shaves about 25 minutes off the journey. And I can never understand why this thing wants to take me down the M11, so I know not to take that particular route. But sat-navs, they are marvellous things, but they don't always take you the correct way that perhaps you should go. Funnily enough, I saw a programme on the television a couple of hours ago, Police Camera Action, and it was showing some of the terrible things that have happened to people. I hope not deaths, but where they've been taken down perhaps large, big juggernauts, and they're following the sat-nav and have gone down a little side road and got stuck. You know, so not always. My mate David Rosen, who used to be a DJ, drives a minicab now. He used to say to me, if you're going to go on a journey, work it out in your map book and then put your sat-nav on, just in case you get lost. That's how he'd do it. Unfortunately, I am one of those people that follow the sat-nav to the letter, because I get lost and I get scared. I don't know why I get scared when I get lost. Maybe that's why I don't like travelling to foreign countries. I do worry terribly when I'm getting lost. One of the countries I'd actually like to visit is China. No, but I mean, if you're having trouble reading road signs in France, you're never going to read a road sign in China, because it's all little shapes. And Japan as well, of course, and Thailand, all those countries where they use little shapes and things as letters. And I haven't got a clue how I would find my way about in somewhere like that. Maybe I need a guide. And that's it, really. There we are. My recent visit to my sister. A lovely time. Skegness. Maybe not for me. Hugely popular. There were an awful lot of people there. There were an awful lot of people eating chips and ice cream and on the fun fair. But really very, very commercialised. If I go to seaside, I like it to be fairly quiet. Brighton, I think, is my nearest seaside resort. Again, a little bit too built up for me. But if you go just a little bit along the coast, if you ever go to Brighton, you get to the right, go right to the end of the road, and there's the sea in front of you, and you've got the pier in front of you, okay? If you go right and travel for about 10, 15 minutes, if that, you will end up in Hove, which is much, for me, is much nicer. Hove is just down there on the right, a lot quieter and more relaxed. All right, now I've just turned over my bit, because I write down, you see, I don't have a script, but I write down all my bits and pieces, what I'm going to talk about, and I kind of refer to it now and again. On the back, I've just noticed, I think it must be, let me have a look, is it, I think Jim has drawn a little picture of me on there, and he's also put R. He's spelt it. Can you look? He's put AR. One of the noises. Blah, blah, blah. I wonder if Dane, blonde, spiky-haired Dane, will be coming along to Bingay again tomorrow night. Which for me is Tuesday, which for you is Friday, though, isn't it? I've got Bingay tomorrow night, and Dane, sometimes he comes, sometimes he doesn't, and he started joining in with the noises. Oh, yeah, someone said to me the other day, I don't do that noise much anymore. So I'll start again, okay? I'm just wondering if I turn the iron off downstairs or not, because I do try to iron my shirts before I come and talk to you. It's nice to be smart, isn't it? Right, lots more to tell you, but not till the next show, okay? I have been quite busy in my life, and I have some more news about Gary and his motorbike test, and bikes, and a woman on an electric wheelchair. News about lots of other things, but not till the next show, my darlings, because now it's email time. And I said to you, these have been building up for a while, okay? Here is one that Joe sent on the 14th of July. Joe from AmericanTalkUSA.com, which is our sister podcast done by our American friend Joe, AmericanTalkUSA.com, okay? And Joe says, because he was telling me recently, he's going to go to Peru and do good things with people who are slightly disadvantaged than himself, or indeed a lot of us in the UK and indeed USA, of course. And I was asking Joe about what it's like in Peru, and he says it floods horribly. Everyone apparently in Peru, which I didn't know, especially, he says, the Amazon basin and the rainforest is highly susceptible to parasites, which include intestinal worms, etc. It's just awful. It sounds awful, doesn't it? Can you imagine getting worms in your tummy? Oof, horrible. And he says, so the Peruvian population is on a regular schedule of shots, that is injections, inoculations, against parasites as well as malaria. They have horrible issues with sanitation, and there is a general lack of clean, portable water. So presumably, Joe, before you go there, you'll have to have injections and all this, that and the other, will you? Oh, rather you than me. I don't like needles. Which was a programme I was watching again earlier, which included something talking about needles. Oh, that's it. Yeah, here in the UK, they were talking they've been talking in the news the last day or so about possibly giving children flu injections. Now, at the moment here in the UK, it's fairly widely advertised that if you are of a certain age, I think it's over 60, or perhaps if you're an asthma sufferer, or you've got a heart or lung problem, they advise you every year to go and have a free flu injection or vaccination, inoculation, whatever you want to call it. Now they're talking about giving it to children because they reckon children who get the flu spread it around more quickly, which I can completely understand because, of course, when you're a young child, you do mix a lot more, don't you? So I don't know if that's a good idea or not. My way of thinking, well, I don't know. I mean, of course, injections, vaccinations have saved an awful lot of us death, haven't they? I mean, I've had the, I think the polio, wasn't that a polio? And it's not an injection, is it? I think it was some sort of liquid on a bit of sugar, if I remember rightly. I've had various injections for this, that and the other. And maybe my life has been saved by these things. But it does worry me. We keep banging all these injections into our arm. Are we doing our own immune system any damage at all with all this? Presumably we're not. Otherwise they wouldn't give us this sort of thing. Then there are, of course, the sceptics, the people that think the government are up to something. And maybe they put something in the injections to make sure you don't live beyond a certain age. those theories. You know, those theories that go around that sometimes some people think about. So I don't know. But giving children injections, well, if it's going to help, then I suppose yes. But are we giving them the injections just so that they don't go through certain things? Mind you, flu is a killer, isn't it? Have you ever had the proper flu? And I remember being a child, and quite often, if I was sneezing away, and Mum would write flu on the letter to the school. Not in this week because he's had flu. Whereas actually, it was only a heavy cold. I have had, I think, proper flu once, and it is, it's not nice. Not nice at all. You wake up in bed absolutely soaking wet 3 or 4 times, and oh, it's awful. Awful, awful. If you've ever had flu, then my heart goes out to you. Anyway, back to the email from Joe here. He says, so I'm going with a piano player and I will play guitar, leading worship services in the evening in a different village. During the day, we will help the doctors and surgeons any way possible, keeping the queues orderly, handing out food and water, dumping trash, etc. And he will be taking his camera on this. So I'll be very interested in knowing all about your journeys there, Joe, because this is something I've mentioned before that I would dearly love to do. Just take off and go to another country and perhaps help people like that. And I mentioned this on a previous show. Joe says, Chris, as your friend, if you're thinking about it, just do it. I know it's hard work and you do have so many responsibilities. However, sorry, I've read that wrong. I know it's hard to work it in because of the amount of stuff I do here in the UK at the moment, and you have so many responsibilities. Having done a few mission things, this much I know for a fact. You will get more out of it than you could ever get back. It's so rewarding. That is why God made us, to help others. Yes, absolutely. Just go and do it, Chris, he says. It took me 4 years to accept God's direction to go on the mission field. I hate the fact that I waited. So thank you for that, Joe. And thank you for your kind advice. Yeah, you are right. You know, I do an awful lot here in the UK, as you know. This show is only part of what I do. What with the DJing and the Bingay and the karaoke and the whole lot. But actually, you know, I have said a couple of times to people when I've been talking to them about my job, what I do isn't important. Playing records to a load of people or reading out some numbers at a bingo doesn't change people's lives. I don't think it helps anyone. The best part of the Bingay that I do is the fact that, I've said before, the way it works, I call out the numbers, a number comes up on the screen. We get a deaf group that come. They come because they can play it. There are lots of things that deaf people can't do. They come to my Bingay because they can play, because of the visuals. And that, to me, makes me feel good. The fact that I've done something that a disadvantaged group of people can now join in at. And of course, you're going to Peru. You will change lives. You will make a difference. You will improve the lives of people, some of who have nothing. I sit here sometimes looking around, forgetting perhaps how fortunate I am. Forgetting how fortunate I am to be able to sit here and talk to you like this, one to one. And many people spend all day looking for something to eat, or looking for something to drink. If I want a drink, I go downstairs and turn the tap on. There are some people in Africa, when they want a drink, they stick a bucket on their head and they walk 5 miles down to a river. How fortunate are we? And yet we sit there and moan, don't we? We sit there and moan that we'll be charged too much to empty the bins. Or there's a camera on the road and it keeps taking photographs. We sit there and moan about these stupid things. When there are people in places like Peru, as Joe, you're about to find out, who have nothing. Well done, Joe. I do hope one day to just literally go and do it. I find it very difficult to just go like that. Some people can do it. Some people can do it. I find it hard. There are other things I'd love to do, as you know. Was it Catherine? Catherine was saying to me in a letter, I can't remember if I read it out now. She was saying, you've got to decide what makes you happy. Well, helping other people would make me happy. It would be damn hard work, wouldn't it? But I bet once the job is over, if indeed you want it to be over, I know people that spend their entire lives looking after disadvantaged people. Look at Mother Teresa. A saint. Mother Teresa, who spent her entire life helping the little babies in India. Calcutta, wasn't it? And she formed the Sisters of Mercy. Could you do that? Could any of us do that? How many of us could do that? It must take someone very strong to be able to give up their entire life to assist other people. Have you done it? Anyone listening or watching at the moment, what things have you done that you hope have changed someone's life for the better? Let us know. I don't think I've given out the email address to the show today, have I? It's chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. What have I done? Nothing really big, I suppose. I mean, I haven't gone digging wells for people with no water. Years ago, I used to go and help at some money-raising activities, jumble sales, that sort of thing with the Scouts. But it's hardly giving people a better life, is it? Going and sorting out some old clothes or toys to raise a bit of money. I think once when I was in the Scouts, was about 14 years old, I think just before one Christmas, the whole Scout group went round to an old people's home and made and put up Christmas decorations. You know, they were out those bits of paper, like a little bit of paper, lots of different colour bits of paper that you lick one end, stick the other one together, and then make lots of paper chains. And we used to put that up in an old people's home, which I suppose made the old people very happy to see some youngsters trying to perhaps bring a little bit more sparkle into their life. But it's hardly life-changing, isn't it? Did you do anything life-changing for anyone? Do let us know. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Now, there is a postal address as well, which I will give you after our next email, which is also another one. We're going right back to the 2nd of July for this. And then we come a little bit more up to date. We are getting there, dear. We are getting there, okay? Hello to Brian, a motorbiker in Canada. And he wrote a PS at the end of one of his recent emails, and I never got round to it for some reason. He says, I was interested in your recent comments about watching your weight, or indeed not. I have, for many years, tried hard to keep my weight down by dieting and exercise. Over the years, I have ranged from probably about £170 down to £129. Now, I don't know what that is, actually. Was that, hang on, £170. How many pounds in a stone? Just divide by 14, isn't it? 1 minute. So, 12 stone. So, your weight's changed between 9 stone 2 and about 12 stone. That's the British thing. So, that's quite a large variation there. And he says, bordering on anorexic, my wife figured at the time. Yeah. Do you know what, Brian? There is a picture of me somewhere on UnitedKingdomTalk.co.uk of me watering a hanging basket. At the time, I'd managed to get down to 10.5 stone. Hang on, I've worked that out for you. 14 times 10. Oh, so that'd be about £140. Now, at the time, I thought, oh, it looks all right. But people kept telling me, oh, you look a bit thin. Are you all right? You know, yeah, that's the trouble when you lose weight. People start asking you if you're all right, don't they? Are you all right, Chris? You lost a bit too much weight. Now I look at it, I can see that. And yes, I had lost too much weight. And I reckon, Brian, perhaps if you got to £129, I reckon that is possibly a mild form of anorexia. What do you reckon? Don't worry, I've never been, I don't think, at the point where I thought, oh, I mustn't eat at all. Like some of these poor girls. I mean, it's very sad, really. A lot of that I blame on the media. People like Victoria Beckham. Like stick insects, walking around just like a bit of bone walking around. You kind of think to yourself, you know, when some of these people die who are so thin, I mean, it won't take long for them bodies to decompose. You'll only need to rent the grave for 10 years, won't you? Well, that's a way of saving money, isn't it, eh? Brian says, at present, I'm just about £152 and would like to lose maybe £10. Well, Brian, at the moment, I'm 12 stone 8 and I would like to lose a stone, which is about £14. Okay? But I know, this is the dilemma, you see. I know if I lose that weight, the lines on my eyes and my forehead will be more prominent because of my age. Gone are the days when that youthful skin would tighten back up. It just shows the lines now. But nice people have said to me it's because I smile so much, and maybe that is the case. Brian says, it certainly becomes harder to take off the pounds as the years roll by. You're absolutely right. You are so right. Since the beginning of the year, my dieting and exercise routines have slipped a bit. So just within the last week, I've been trying to summon the willpower to get back to daily exercises and good diet. Sounds like you're having exactly the same problem as me, Brian. At the beginning of the year, I used to jog 3 or 4 times a week for about 45 minutes a time. And I used to go swimming Monday to Friday. Now, the jogging has stopped completely for 2 reasons. The main reason being my knees were occasionally painful, which I was told was due to the jogging. So that's one reason. The other reason was the time. There's so much going on in my life all the time. I don't have time to go jogging and rest. But the swimming, that's down to about 3 or 4 sessions a week. Now, the swimming, the only reason is a time issue. And that's the one I want to get back to. I want to go back to swimming at least Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I do, however, now go for... Well, I was hoping to go to 2 or 3 long walks per week, about an hour a time. At the moment, for example, last week I managed about an hour and 3/4, but only once. So if I could just get 2 or 3 long walks in a week, I'd be happy. Good diet. I do believe my problem is the bread machine. Okay? Loaf of bread comes out, it gets eaten. Love it. But I think one of the other things is that I'm fed up with chasing this thin thing. It doesn't get you any more offers of love, does it? Otherwise, it would have happened when I was thinner. So what's the point? Do it for yourself, people would say. Well, yes, but as long as you're reasonably fit, does it matter if you've got a few extra pounds laying over the edge? I don't know, Brian. I kind of got fed up with it. He says, taking a break from the exercising for a couple of days right now, though, as I'm down with a cold and just don't feel up to it. Well, that's fair enough. And he goes on, PPS, it occurred to me after I sent you the motorcycle safety write-up that your nephew is likely already well versed on all this stuff. If his dad is and has been a motorcycle rider for many years, I'm sure that he would be setting him straight. And you're quite right there, Brian. Most older motorcycle riders I've met tend to be very safety conscious. Otherwise, they don't get to be older motorcycle riders. And yeah, I think you're quite right there. And since your email came in, my nephew has now indeed passed all his tests and has now purchased a second-hand motorcycle. And not only has he purchased a motorcycle, he's given me the model, because I said to him, Brian in Canada will want to know what bike you've got. And he has bought a blue Yamaha bike. This isn't the registration plate, this is the model. A YZF, or do you say Z, do you? YZF R6, okay? So if you want to have a look at that, Brian, pretty big machine, and cost him, it was second-hand, cost him a little bit under £3,000, okay? A Yamaha blue YZF R6. All right? Not only has he bought that, I bought him the crash helmet, proper crash helmet, quite an expensive item, but very important while I was up there on the visit. And he has now purchased the full leather, which he had measured for him. It wasn't off the peg or anything. He's done it all properly, nice thick leathers, which hopefully will, I'm sure he'll, I don't like to say this, but I'm sure he might come off it once or twice. Hopefully he won't be going too fast at the time. It worries me so much, Brian. It really does. But what can you do? I suppose you just have to let them get on with it and hope that they're reasonably sensible about it. So thank you very much for all your information, Brian. All right. Okay, I'm going to give you the postal address now, boys and girls. Anyone listening on radio or in a hospital bed somewhere, if you haven't got internet access, you can still write in by writing to Chris Reardon, United Kingdom Talk, P.O. Box 4073, Bracknell, BRACKNELL, RG 429ED. Once again, that address, it's Chris Reardon, United Kingdom Talk, P.O. Box 4073, Bracknell, BRACKNELL, RG 429ED. Okay, right. We just about time for one more email today. As I say, hopefully in the next couple of shows we'll catch up with all of them. All right. And it's from young Matthew. Oh, incidentally, Suko and Mei Mei, I did hear you on James Dean's show the other day. Mei Mei was singing, weren't you, my darling? It was lovely. I was kind of hoping that you were going to take over the entire show, Suko and Mei Mei, on my mate's show. It was a lovely bit of singing, my darling. Okay, Matthew in Tasmania, Australia. Hello, Chris. How's you? The graphics look very good on your show. He's talking about the new address graphic that comes up when I'm giving the postal address out. He says on your show, the writing thing of your postal address is clear. I sometimes also listen to a radio station in Australia called Triple J. Maybe you could look at it and try and maybe find a job there, because you said you wanted a job in radio job in Australia. Yes, I have heard of Triple J, and I do indeed listen to one of their podcasts with Dr. Carl. who's on there once a week. It's a youth station, isn't it, Triple J, and very good as well as it is too. He said, I heard you mention the Tasmanian Devil twice this week, he says. I have friends like you that make me go bonkers, and that I also come across your name makes me go silly, especially back in high school and college. We used to get up to mischief. He says, us young ones always get told off. You grown-ups tell us what to do. Yeah, it's only because of your age. You've got to learn. Got to learn, Matty. It's funny, this age thing. And back in college, there used to be this girl that cackled as she laughed her head off every 5 minutes, and it drove the teacher mad up the wall. Was she cackling, was she? I could do a cackle. Do I sound like the witch rather, on The Wizard of Oz? I'll get you, my pretties, and your little dog too. What about that bit where she has something thrown over? I'm melting! I'm melting! And she turns around and she goes, I'm melting! Oh, yeah, thank you, Matty. Nice to hear from you. And I think it's time for me to go now. Let me have a look. Yes, yep, that's it. That's all for the show today. Hope you like my new haircut. Those of you that can see me, I've had a bit of a haircut this week. Had to pay the full price, though, because the owner wasn't there. £11. It's a liberty. I'll see you on the next show. Don't forget that email, chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. See you on the next show. Thanks for watching and listening. Bye-bye.